Ahí está.
Good morning, everyone. Just give me a second. Thank you for your patience. We were waiting for the rest to start. We are 18 already, waiting for starting the seminar. So thank you for joining today's webinar on revenue management strategies for optimizing direct sales by hospitality and tourism SMEs. My name is Albert Rodriguez, and I'm project manager at the Barcelona Chamber of Commerce. Today's webinar takes place in the framework of TourBIZZ project funded by the European Union, and the Barcelona Chamber of Commerce is partner of this project. The objective is to support SMEs in the digital transformation, providing them with the skills, technical, and financial support. This webinar is the third of a series of 4 webinars that TourBIZZ is organizing together with the CETT at the Barcelona School of Tourism, Hospitality, and Gastronomy. I want to thank Enric López from the CETT for setting all this up and for getting this set of very interesting speakers for us. Now he will present them to all of us in a second. I just want to let you know that if you have questions during the webinar, you can type them in the chat, and our experts will try to respond to them or ask for the stage in the chat, and we can give you the floor so you can speak, okay? So you do it via the chat. I would like also to take advantage of this occasion to draw your attention to another very interesting and comprehensive training opportunity under the TourBIZZ project. It is the so-called Go Digital Skills Program. Okay, this has just started and will go on until the spring of next year with a set of very nice learning opportunities around digitalization tailor-made for tourism SMEs. For example, digital marketing, data analysis, or cybersecurity. I'm going to post this link in the chat where you will find more information on the program. Okay. And that's it from my side. I would like to pass the word to Enric so we can start with the content of this webinar. Okay? Thank you all.
Thanks, Albert, for the introduction. Good morning and welcome all the attendants to this webinar today on the Tourbit project about revenue management. This is our third webinar. The first one was about audiovisual marketing, and the second one about metaverse in the hospitality and tourism industry. Both can be seen again on the online platform of this TourBIZZ project. Thanks again to the Cambra de Comerç de Barcelona for trusting our institution for the design and curation of these webinars. Today, in this webinar, we will explore the importance of direct bookings for hospitality business and the strategies to optimize revenue through this channel. We will cover topics such as website optimization, pricing strategies, customer relationship management, and the role of technology in driving direct bookings that will help you maximize profits and increase customer loyalty in the competitive travel market. And to achieve the general objectives in this webinar, we have professionals of recognized prestige, such as Cristina Blach, founder of Open Revenue Consulting. Thank you, Cristina. Alex Urgell, Director of Revenue Management, W Barcelona Hotel. Thank you, Alex. And Dr. Oriol Anguera-Torrell, Associate Professor at CETT Barcelona School of Tourism, Hospitality and Gastronomy. The three under the moderation of the webinar by Juan Daniel Núñez, Editor and Founder, Smarttravel.news. Thanks again, Juan Daniel. And thank you all. And when you want, Juan Daniel, please.
Okay, thank you, Enric. Thank you all for attending. I'm like your third host today, so let's get this thing started as soon as possible. So we have three wonderful panelists, and I'm sure that many of you already have a big sense of what revenue management is and what it can mean to a hotel distribution. But we have three very different perspectives on the next three presentations, which is nice because we will have, of course, the more academic vision of it. We will have somebody who already works and been working on the hotel industry for a long time. And also we have this last perspective about how we can integrate revenue management with marketing. And of course, all of this trying to boost direct channel and direct sales, which is the final goal that we all have, of course. So Oriol, the floor is yours. You have the more academic perspective. So for each one of you who maybe have learned a bit about revenue management but don't have like a broad idea of what it means, I think this would be a great presentation to know all the basics. So Oriol, it's all yours.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thanks a lot, Juan Daniel, for this nice introduction, and also special thanks to Cambra de Comerç and to all the organizers of this webinar, and of course, special thanks to everybody who's connected this morning. So I would like to start by pointing out some examples of revenue management practices, because examples of revenue management practices abound. For instance, when you are to book a flight from Barcelona to Hong Kong, British Airways basically displays different rates across different dates. Okay, basically the objective of British Airways is to give incentives to those consumers with high flexibility, but also low willingness to pay to self-select for November 15, in this case. This practice is also undertaken by hotel properties. For instance, Alimara Hotel in Barcelona, which is located at the campus of my school, also displays basically the calendar for the whole month of February with the different prices, so you also can self-select. Another example of revenue management practices can be found when restaurants can also offer some discounted prices, so some offers for some specific hours in which they have low occupancy. Okay, for instance, in this case, if you go to dine at 12 or 12:30, then you have basically a discounted price because it's likely that this restaurant has low occupancy at those times. However, although these practices of revenue management abound, I think it's now time to say that this science is not so old. Actually, everything started around 50 years ago in the air. Yeah, everything started in the airline industry in the US, because up to the 70s, basically all prices and routes were completely regulated by the Civil Aeronautics Board. But in 1978, there was an act was passed, the Airline Regulation Act, that basically increased competition in the market. Okay, basically now new operators were allowed to also start operating in the airline industry, and actually there was an eruption of new low-cost carriers. The iconic example of these new low-cost carriers was People Express, that basically succeeded in cutting prices by 50–70% of their competitors. Due to the entrance of these new competitors, there was a price war that brought about a reduction on the average price of flying. And indeed, on 1986, the Time magazine was actually portraying the CEO of People Express and was saying, flying has never been cheaper. Okay, actually, the price war was so fierce that some of the well-known and incumbent firms, such as Eastern Airlines, that we need to recall that for many years they maintained the monopoly of all the routes between New York and major Florida cities, so a good piece of business, actually went bankrupt. Okay, yet this was not the destiny of American Airlines, and I think it's fair to say that this was thanks to Robert Crandall, that at that point in time was the marketing vice president of American Airlines. And basically what Robert Crandall did, he basically noted that the cost of serving an additional customer, what in economics we call the marginal cost, for airlines was close to zero. Okay, it was just the extra peanuts or the extra juice that you were offering to this customer. So then he said, given that this cost is close to zero, actually it makes sense to offer some seats at prices even lower than those new competitors. Okay, so basically he wanted to price discriminate. Okay, and how did he achieve this? Okay, basically they introduced some programs, they implemented a new software that was called Dynamo, and they basically succeeded in forecasting demand, in controlling capacity, and start to segment the market. Okay, all those practices were super successful for American Airlines, and given that they were so successful, then they were also adopted by a hotel chain. Okay, well, a hotel company. Sorry, the hotel company that first adopted those revenue management practices was Marriott. Okay, because at the end of the day, we need to recall that hotel industry and the airline industry have many characteristics in common. Both sell a perishable product, both have fixed capacity, both have a similar cost structure with high fixed costs, low variable costs. So actually it was kind of natural that the airline industry also started to adopt these strategies of these revenue management strategies that, let me tell you, that at that point in time, they were talking about yield management. Okay, the airline industry was talking about yield management instead of revenue management. Then also after Marriott actually adopted those practices, other hotel chains also started to apply them, such as Radisson, Hyatt, and others. And nowadays, many hotel properties, both belonging to chains or independent properties, apply those strategies. Okay. So now that we know a little bit the origin, let's actually provide a definition of revenue management. There are several definitions. I will go with a an easy and commonly accepted definition that it's basically selling the right product to the right customer at the right time, at the right price, and through the right channel, with the objective of maximizing revenue and the final objective of maximizing profits. Okay, so to do this, in revenue management, we have basically 4 main areas. I would say that we have 4 main areas. One is forecasting. We need to predict what's going to happen. Another one is inventory management. In other words, we need to decide what we put on the shelf to be sold. Okay. Another important area is pricing, defining all pricing strategies. Another important area is basically reporting all KPIs and tracking all strategies to keep improving. Okay. So as you can see, it's basically a mix of different disciplines. It's a mix of economics, marketing, psychology, data analysis. Okay. Lots of different disciplines interact in revenue management. That's why in my school, at CETT Barcelona School of Tourism, Hospitality and Gastronomy, we actually train our students. We train them at the bachelor level. We also train them at the master's level. We offer specific revenue management courses. Actually, Alex Oriol, who will talk later, is one of the professors also in the masters of our school. Then we have a specific master in revenue management, and we also offer on the World Tourism Organization online academy, we also offer a specific course on revenue management. However, beyond teaching revenue management courses, we are also engaged in doing research in the area of revenue management. And today I will briefly explain you a couple of recent papers that we conducted. Okay. This paper, jointly conducted with Claudia Langer, is in the area of meta search engines. Okay, as you may know, meta search engines are platforms in which the different available options to book a particular room night are displayed. Okay, so in this paper we were interested in knowing for this was a fictitious hotel, Garden Palma. Okay, so we wanted to know for this hotel that here you can see on the screen that appears with the official site and is competing directly with an well-known OTA, in this case Booking.com. We wanted to know what happens if the official site actually improves the ranking, so move from second to top position. So what happens in the proportion of people that directly click on the official site instead of Booking.com, and this represents, of course, a reduction in the commissions that the hotel needs to pay. So we found that by increasing this position, basically there was a 22% in the proportion of people that were clicking on the official site. However, let me tell you that if this, instead of being an independent hotel, it would be associated with a well-known parent company such as Marriott or Hilton, we wouldn't detect such an effect. Okay. Then another paper that, this is a more recent paper, jointly conducted with Juan Luis Nicolau from Virginia Tech. We're interested in studying the pricing strategies of different types of properties, independent, franchise, and chain properties, when big events happen in town. So in particular, when big trade shows happen in town, such as, for instance, Mobile World Congress. And what we actually found, let me go directly to the result because I only have 30 seconds left, that we found that independent properties can actually benefit more from big trade shows than chain managed properties. In particular, for trade shows of around 100K attendees, they get a higher 10% price increase with respect to chain managed properties. And here the reason is basically that they have a lower opportunity cost to raise prices when there are these big events, because chain managed properties actually may have a damage on the reputation of the brand they belong to. So let me just finish by saying that actually mastering revenue management techniques can actually be a game changer for hotels, independently on whether they are attached to a hotel chain or they are a small and medium properties. And hopefully we'll have more time to discuss later about them. So thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you so much, Oriol. And I have a couple of questions for you, but we'll leave it for later. First, the presentations, of course. I think this was a great broad view of what revenue management means for, especially for independent hotels, which is very interesting. but I think Alex will give us will complement this with the actual action of what happens with revenue management in real time and dealing with OTAs, because it's not just a question about price, but also about dealing with contracts and of course working with different OTAs and different channels, which is not just the OTAs. Sometimes it can be a bit messy for hotels dealing with 10 or more channels. So Alex, let's talk about this in real life, let's say.
Yeah, thanks again. Thanks for the invitation. And let me just share my screen just a second, so you can see all the same as I'm gonna present. As you can see by my lack of hair, I have certain age, so I'm gonna talk to you about chance and change. And here you can see there are two logos here. Well, there's a logo and there's an image that maybe you are able to identify both of them. The first one on the left one is the mouse, and as Oriol already did, I'm gonna do a little bit of time walking through this presentation. And the first one is basically the image of the first mouse. I come from an age where the mouses didn't exist. I'm sure everybody in the call will think a computer without a mouse, there's something that I'm going to be missing. So that was the first mouse that was introduced in 1981. And the logo you see on the right is actually ChatGPT, who has been a hot topic in terms of talking and what's the opportunities that it's bringing to every single industry, not only hotel industry, but every single industry. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to cope that? And why do I say that? Because, and I'm sure Christina will afterwards expand this wall. But what I want to say is that basically there's technology, and technology changes really fast. And it might be a change. We always, as humans, we resist to change, but there's a chance on taking advantage of that change. And that's what I want to go through. As Oriol already mentioned, you see here a different way of putting the right customer at the right price, and through the right channel, which is what we are talking about, because every single channel has a cost associated to it. And as you say, we will all love to have all our reservations coming directly through our own channel. That's a reality. But regretfully, when we face the reality, it's not always so simple. So we have to try to find actually the balance, what you see here. So third party versus direct booking. And I put third party, not only OTAs, because some hotels, I work in a 5-star hotels, but I come actually from independent hotels, family hotels, 3 and 4 stars, all-inclusive resorts. So I had a little bit of bunch of experience there. And the first thing I will tell you is one of the things that we tend to do as hoteliers, especially when we don't have the support of a big chain behind us, is we tend to go through those partners as kind of solution providers. And then we tend to adapt lower prices in their channels because they tell us we are going to get access to certain customers we are not. And that you can find everywhere. There's no secret about it. I will just say, don't do that. Even if you are a small company, don't do that. Have always the same price, or the best price has to always be in your own website, in your own channels. That's the base for it. You saw it before, or you'll share it with us. If you look online and you find a better price in another website, probably you're going to be there. Technology-wise, if you are a small property, you're not going to be able probably to compete with them in terms of marketing. You have to try, and Christina's going to give you probably great examples of that. But let's face it, you're not going to have the funds. But if you fail already in terms of pricing, I assure you, you're going to lose all your revenues. And I'm going to give you, as you know, for my age, I'm going to give you a few battles. And I want to explain you an old one from an independent hotel located in the coast, seasonal hotel. Basically, when we opened that hotel, 90% of the business was coming through, in that time, tour operators, which were the OTAs of today. What did we do there? Yes, you have to implement your own channel, but every time you have a customer in your hotel, you have an opportunity to try to make it a loyal customer to you and not to other channels. So you have to invest in that. You have to make sure that they come back to you if they're going to repeat, especially, and I say that especially in hotels where you have customers that are repeating. Imagine that you have a hotel that's based on German customers, people from Holland. They tend to repeat if they like the destination. especially in vacations. I'm not saying about city breaks. I'm talking now about probably beach destinations. They tend to repeat. So if they're going to repeat, if you give them some way to get back to you and get in touch with you, you can use it. The use of technology. I show you there ChatGPT. Why? Because probably you have already interacted without realizing, and not only in hotels, in other industries as well, with a chat box. Those chat box, they are programmed so that they have a kind of, let's say, a plot. And as long as you follow the plot, you are able to give replies to them. And the moment that the bot cannot process that chat is when they send you to a human person, but you don't realize they do it in a really seamless way, more and more, and that's advancing. That's something that's going to come in the future, and probably there's an opportunity in technology there, in case there's an investor here, to try to make an interface between those chat boxes and engine bookings, because that will drive again. Imagine that you are chatting and you're doing your reservation directly in a chat box. It's not there yet, but it might come in sooner than what you think. And then when you do that kind of equilibrium, when you are doing those kind of let's say you're trying to juggle your reservations and trying to get the most out of them. Booking, Expedia, we will hear a lot. They are not the enemy; they are another partners. It's our decision as hoteliers how we are going to work with them, and it's easy just to say everything yes to them, and then at the end we become dependent of them. But let's face it, at the end of the day, they are just a partner that they are going to help us sell. But the important thing of all, of course, is trying to sell more through our direct channel, and through that we have to do our own work. We cannot just sit aside and stay on the back and say it's the fault. So what do we do for that? And basically, basically here you have again two images, because I like a lot that, and you have here Tesla. I don't know if you all are familiar with, there was a video that became quite popular, and basically it's a Tesla, and the Tesla is driving by itself. And all of a sudden, in the screen, you can see that there's somebody with an orange t-shirt. And the Tesla is thinking, is it a con? Is it a person? And finally, it stops and asks somebody to take the wheel. And why do I put that? And I go to the next image on the right side, because I will say invest in technology. That's right. You have to invest in technology, but you have to invest in people. It doesn't matter which kind of technology you use, how good it is. If you don't have somebody that, if technology fails, can take the wheel, it will fail. And I give you a clear example that I think we all went through is COVID. When COVID happened, everything changed. All what we had was not valid anymore. All the data we had in revenue management was not valid. Booking lead time that we typically take, forecasting was impossible. We don't know what's going to happen. To give you an example, in this hotel, 75% of the volumes were coming 3 days before. So until 3 days before, we didn't know what we were going to be selling. So it was basically like surfing, and as long as the wave didn't break, it was working, but it was quite difficult. So yes, invest in technology, but also invest in your people. If you have, for instance, I don't know if anybody has driven a Ferrari, but I had the privilege of driving once a Ferrari, and the first thing was to start it. I didn't know how to do it. And you will say, it's a car, I know how to drive it. No, I was not able to start the Ferrari. I was there sitting 5 minutes while I saw my colleagues laughing at me because I didn't know how to do it. So it doesn't matter if you have the best technology or what you can think is the best technology. If you don't know how to use it, you're not going to take profit of it. And why people? And I give you another example that we are doing here in this hotel. We talk about revenue management, but you will have heard, and with that I'm going to finish, you will have heard about total revenue management. And I say invest in people, and I give you a clear example. I should have put a photo of him, actually. We have here a person, Federico, who started last year, and we took over total revenue management. And as Oriol said, revenue management is not only about pricing, it's about profitability. So basically at the W Barcelona, we created our own tool. There was no technology, so we created it. We created our own tool. We track every single revenue stream. We forecast every single revenue stream. And every day, with that technology in 5 minutes, and believe me, it's something that is not so difficult to do, we provide you with a new forecast for this month and the next month. And then we are able with that, the next step we are doing now is that we are projecting profitability as well. So we are doing a GOP, a full P&L for the hotel every single day, a theoretical one for this month and the month onwards. Technology and people, you have to find the balance between both of them. If you invest in technology, also invest in people so they are able to take out the most of the technology. And just think about your phone. Are you able to use everything that's on your phone? Probably not. I'm not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. So we had a broad vision of revenue management with Oriol. Now Alex has given us a few examples of the real life working with revenue management and OTAs, and the importance of strategy and the right pricing. And he also gave us a glimpse of what technology means and the importance of not just having the right technology, but also the right people. So lastly, we have Cristina Blas, and she will give us this last third step, like the technology part, which is very important, but not just the technology part, but how integrating that with the marketing processes and the right people, of course, to do it. So Chris, it's all yours. I cannot hear you yet.
Chris, you are muted. You need to open your microphone.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it is. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was really, really great to listen to both Oriol and Alex, who made a really good intro into this topic that we're going to be talking about. So I think we talked a lot about the constraints that hotels have to really make the most of their inventory and get the best results out of their business. And I think what I would like to spend more time to discuss today is the importance of bringing revenue and marketing together, really to be able to deliver on the objectives and specifically the margin for our business. I think hotels have been quite lucky, especially recently, that they've been experiencing some very strong performances in ADR, which has been cushioning a lot of the erosions in the margins due to the incredible surge in operational costs and acquisition costs. And I think one of the areas that I really liked how Alex has highlighted is we really need to have a dual strategy when we talk about revenue management. We need to think about our indirect strategy, where potentially most of our business is coming from, but also we need to think about our direct strategy, and we need to really align them and fine-tune them as best as possible. And if we talk about the direct strategy, that ultimately is our biggest opportunity to deliver on that margin, to retain that margin. I think we spend, I would say, one of the areas that I'd really like to address with this talk is how we can really focus our efforts into the direct channel and bring in front of you. First of all, some very interesting KPIs that I'm sure you recognize in your business, but also a technology that can help you really boost those. So if we talk about the direct channels from a KPI perspective, I think many times in general, when we talk about our strategy, we spend lots of time dissecting our business and at the hotel and really understanding what are the KPIs that we need to focus more on in each segment to ultimately determine which customers do we really want to bring in, which are the most valuable customers of all, and what are those particular patterns that we care about when it comes to our trends in leisure versus business, groups, OTAs, or even within the OTA segment, how do we break down the OTA segment, because one OTA might behave very differently from another. How much time we spend into fine-tuning this strategy? I would say most of our time. But how much time do we really spend in the direct channel today to really understand what are the main KPIs that really move the needle on the direct channel, and really learn what are the markets and the demographics in our direct channel mix? I think very little still today. I think that we need to think more about the shift that we need to approach in order to address our direct channel. I would start by saying, the behavior that we can identify in the direct channel becomes really, really important, because we're in a position to compare what is the booking versus the search behavior of a guest that comes from the UK versus Ireland versus Spain versus Germany versus Scandinavia. If we just look a little bit at the Spanish sort of demographic mix for guests. But also, what is the average booking value we're getting from each one of those demographics? What is the lead time that they tend to book? For how long do they stay? How many times do they actually come to our website before they book? And even what devices do they care more about, and they tend to book more specific room categories or specific days of the week. I think by really and truly identifying the customer behavior and really trying to align and group these behaviors that are very similar, it will help us assess their value and will help revenue managers determine how these various customer or demographic segments contribute to the booking and the profit margin in their business. And from there, they can really develop specific strategies to balance these segments in a way that they can really achieve that optimal customer mix that they can curate into their direct channel. A very simple example is those customers that book with a very long lead time, 100 days plus, versus a customer that books, and that very frequently is a British customer or an Irish customer or a Scandinavian customer, versus a customer that tends to book 30 days or less in advance. That could be very easily a Spanish customer if you're talking about a Spanish hotel. So you need to put into two separate segments and really be addressed with two different strategies to convert them into our direct channel. And really important to say that 70% of our consumers really expect that when they come into our direct channels, we almost know what they want, and we're in a position to personalize and contextualize that information that we present to them in a way that is meaningful and in a way that is compelling. And that is our opportunity to compel them, is to communicate our value proposition and why our direct channel is the best for them to ultimately book. But there, I would say, there is a big challenge for hotels that obviously they're not really already, I would say, centered in this direction. And there's a specific problem that they're facing day in and out when we talk about their direct channels. And why they're not able to convert more of their business direct. And that is, I would say, very much linked to, this ability to communicate with the guest. What's the value proposition? What's the exclusive benefit of booking direct? And really trying to personalize and match their intent to book with the current offering and availability at the hotel. When we talk again about this conversion issue, it's very much related to our ability to flow through our traffic from the website into the booking engine. So I would say industry-wide stats recognize that barely 10 to 20% of the users that actually come to our website, and we do a lot of marketing. Oriol talked about how Meta has a big impact into promoting the direct channel and creating that billboard effect into the direct channel. Being present on all those third-party channels that Oriol, that Alex has mentioned, it's really key to be able to drive that traction into the direct channel. But when they run to our website, if there's nothing really that's contextualized for them, just as OTAs have the ability to do it, they just bounce back. So industry-wide, we're talking about 10 to 20% of the traffic that comes to our website. This is all the people that we're trying to capture. Only 10 to 20% really flow through to the booking engine. And where do we focus all of our revenue strategy? At best, in the OTAs and other third-party channels, and a portion of that into our booking engine, and hopefully keep the parity at the bare minimum. If not, obviously the ideal would be to have a much better offering onto the direct channel. But we only focus on 10 to 20% of our business, and we only capture 10 to 20% worth of information about our customers from our booking engine. We spend little time on understanding the real potential of those 80% of the traffic that comes into our website. And that's because marketing sits in their department with their KPIs, with their planning and objectives, and revenue sits in a completely different department with their KPIs and their objectives. And they speak possibly on a regular basis, possibly not very regular, and they don't align and coordinate strategies. So the solution to all this is adopting a piece of technology that, first of all, can enable you to have that capacity to integrate your revenue team with the marketing team into the direct channel, because ultimately that's who we want to curate our long-term customer base that can become repeat customer base. When we talk about third parties, they have more hotels in their portfolio. They're not our customer. Although they come and stay in our hotel, they possibly are not our customer for the second stay. Whereas the direct customer is our main customer. And that's really where we want to look at curating content to retaining them. So if we talk about technology, this is a big part of how we manage our revenue strategy. There's a piece of technology that aligns that strategy that we have and priorities we have in our revenue department versus the strategies that enable us to communicate with our customer that sit with marketing. And what they actually do, so they bring them together to enable a personalization at scale through technology, through automation of understanding what's my customer behavior and what are my priorities in revenue, so I can match the two and get that conversion happening. And that's really what rev marketing automation technology is there to achieve, is there to crunch all the website and booking engine data in a way that it's very granular and meaningful to create specific patterns that we understand, and then applying them to match the priorities for inventory and for revenue at the hotel in a very automated and seamless way. How do we do that? Very simply, once we understand the user and what's their intent to buy, do they come from a particular geography? Have they booked with us in the past? And what geography, I would say, what are the particular patterns within that geography? And on the other side, we need to determine if we have inventory available for them, because they might have already searched specific dates. So can we match those dates that the user is really looking for? By having connected our inventory for the first time into our website, meaning I have availability concept readily available for the user into my website right before they actually search for booking days, I'm able to influence the behavior of the user, of the guest, to look at the days that I need to fill up my hotel and present them with an incentive that is aligned with their intent and will make it compelling enough for them to look at it. And so that is really what rev marketing automation does. It allows us very seamlessly to map our priorities when we talk about revenue strategy. You know, what is the behavior we want the platform to understand when we're at 60% occupancy versus 80% occupancy, when I have 2 days in the middle of the week that are not performing versus my weekend, when I have specific periods that I need to extend one more night because otherwise I have a shoulder date there that I can't really move. So that's very simple to set up. A couple of ideas and scenarios here would be, just to really translate this into practical terms. I'm faced with a very slow pickup and a fairly low occupancy for a specific lead time. I'm picking up business really, really slowly. and I'm trying to really optimize this at least 90 days in advance. How can I bring my strategy to communicate what's my value proposition for an early booker from a specific geography? What's going to make them tick and get excited about clicking on a specific offer that I have and make them book it? Also, am I targeting a specific length of stay to increase or match the length of stay that that particular demographic is coming from? Great. Well, I can very easily set this up and say, okay, what's my lead time strategy? What's the occupancy? What's the minimum length of stay? What's the incentive I want to provide to that customer? It's not always about discounting. It's not really about discounting. It's about how do I communicate the exclusive benefits that I provide direct and compared to much better than all the other third party. This is my playing field. This is where I do business very differently than with the other OTAs. It can be even a variation in my price because my prices vary so frequently. I can very easily highlight it to the user. By the way, my prices are 15% lower than usual. Have a look at these dates. Help me out, drive my occupancy. I return to you these benefits. Similarly, we can highlight, specific categories that are left available. When we've sold our standard and deluxe and we're left with our junior suites, how many times do we end up not selling them? Because when they benchmark against the available inventory in the market, they're very expensive. But in our direct channel, we can highlight only the available rooms with the extras. I'm giving you an F&B credit there for you to enjoy. I'm giving you free access to my spa that's worth X. So that extra value, it really drives the confidence to book. It drives the urgency to book. It helps our priorities for revenue. Again, length of stay is also a major focus. Our ability to really communicate when we give an incentive for it costs me so much less if I don't service a departure room versus a stay through. But if I bring that added value in, I can convert it. And those are just a couple of scenarios for us to really settle into the opportunity with Rev Marketing Automation. This is where I'm going to wrap this up, is understanding what it means to personalize at scale for every single consumer that comes into my website versus not. The impact in our revenue, it helps us deliver on average. This technology works with over 1,600 customers at the moment, and the average impact is 43% into their revenue. Supports occupancy, supports ADR, supports length of stay. That's just one way of thinking about how we can really impact our direct channel and how we can, again, contribute to the margin and to the business. And I'm sure that all of this information will be available to share thanks to the organizers. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And over to you, Juan.
Thank you so very much, Chris. Thank you so much for all three of you for your presentations. So I believe that we have a time for a couple of questions. Of course, again, I encourage you to ask your questions now and take advantage of this opportunity to ask any questions to one of the three panelists. So this my first question is for Oriol, but of course, Chris and Alex, you can join if you want later. Oriol, of course, mentioned that revenue management started in the hotel business with Marriott, and now we see another big change working on such technologies as one-to-one pricing and things like that. So and you also mentioned that in some cases, independent hotels can benefit from these strategies and tactics even more than chain managed hotels. So my question would be, how can we bring these strategies and technologies to every kind of hotel? Because maybe some hotels may be thinking that this is not for them, or they're too small for this kind of technologies. So how can we bring this to this kind of hotels?
So thanks a lot for this question, Juan Daniel. So basically, I think that everybody can benefit from revenue management. Actually, let me explain your curiosity. Okay, so People Express, that low-cost career that actually erupted in the airline industry in the 80s. I think it was the 30 years since they began operation. They were making 60 million profits. Then after 5-6 years more, they went bankrupt. Why? Because they didn't get, actually it was worse of its CEO, it was that they actually didn't get their hands into automation issues and into revenue management practices. So at the end of the day, actually, why we can all benefit from that? Because at the end is what will help us maximizing profits, because revenue management at the end of the day is about segmenting the market. And how we can segment the market? Well, we basically can create different products. The important thing here is that we make customers feel that they are buying different products when they pay different prices. So that's why we have rate fences. And regarding your question of how sometimes the small properties may think, okay, this doesn't go with me, or no, this is just for Marriott, Hilton, and so on and so forth. Well, it may be the case that Marriott has its own revenue management software. Hilton may have its own revenue management software, but independent properties like here have two possibilities. On the one hand, they can start creating their own programs even through Excel. At the end of the day, you can, for instance, for me, one of the most important parts of revenue management is forecasting, but you can forecast with Excel. Okay, at the end of the day, you need to learn which are the main forecasting methods. And there are very easy ones that just use the pickup. And then we have some that are a little bit more difficult, that we use moving averages and so on, and multiplicative models and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you can do this with Excel. Okay, and I think this actually the forecasting part is after talking with many revenue managers from the city of Barcelona, I think this is actually one of the areas in which they are still didn't do their homework. Okay, many people just think that revenue management is just about pricing, inventory management, but how we can make informed decisions without having a prediction. So my advice would be for small properties. So do not be afraid of getting your hands into the revenue management. And maybe you cannot afford a revenue management software. If you cannot, then try to do your own forecast using Excel and then base your decisions on that. The other option they have that I mentioned is that they always can actually always can contact they can outsource the revenue management, or they can ask help to some of these companies, the consulting companies that actually can also make a change on there actually. And I think it's a good investment at the end of the day.
And actually luckily we have a few companies that are developing revenue management systems for small hotels as well. So I think that this access to technologies is getting more cheaper and cheaper every time. I don't know if maybe Alex or Chris want to expand on this.
Actually, yes, if you allow me to jump in, because as I say, I come from 3- and 4-star hotels. My background is not big chains, but family hotels. And I have to say, I started revenue management in those chains. And I'm going to give you just a simple example. 4-star hotel, seasonal one, you have groups that come on weekends. First year, they just come, and then one weekend you have 3 of those groups that they want to come, and they just come once a year. They make a group, and the 3 ask for the same weekend. So you have the data, you know how to contact those. The year afterwards, before they do the calendar, because it's basically people that move other groups around the coast, and they go to one single destination every single weekend. And instead of waiting for them to contact us, we contact them and we tell them, I have this weekend, and this weekend, where I have still a spot and I can give you a nice price, because last year I had to charge you more because I was already fully booked. So just by anticipating that demand that you can have and trying to direct it and contacting, knowing their booking pattern and knowing when they are going to be planning their next year, you can get in touch. You can fill every single weekend that you have. So you have your base to cover your cost, and then you can sell the other customers a little bit more expensive, and you have happy customers that will return. And I'm not talking about the ones that they are coming. I'm actually talking about, let's say, a distributor that is going to bring you business over and over, and you create a relationship. And that's something really simple to do. But to do that, actually, you need to measure. And that's the first thing I will say. If you want to get into revenue management and you don't know yet if you can afford a tool, if you can afford something, just start by measuring it and looking for opportunities. And where do you have your compressed periods? Is there any way you can action that so that that compression you can distribute it and have let's face it, have a more stable occupancy, less let's say bottlenecks between occupancy, so that you invest in improving your let's say your opportunities where you don't have those businesses. That will be the first one. And that's a perfect example of what Cristina said with the way you put it on the website. But that's a simple example that somebody can do without even using any technology. And also Excel. As Oriol mentioned, I'm in a big company now. I have plenty of tools that other colleagues in smaller hotels they do not have, but I still use Excel or Power BI in case you have heard about it, which is a way also to play with the data and present it in a more nicer way. But really use technology, but obviously invest in people to know how to use that technology.
So, Chris, let me ask you. So we've learned that we have the data, of course, we have the technology, and even if we don't have the technology, I'm just learning that we can even still use Excel to improve our results. So what's missing actually really to seize this opportunity of bringing more conversion to the direct channel and more sales and raise prices? Because data and technology seem to be a very reasonable access at the moment. So what would be missing? Is it a question of mindset, knowledge? What is it?
I think it's very much a question of education and how technology can support us, and extremely valuable points that Alex and Oriol have brought up on. Obviously, you need to know your business very well and need to be able to strategize, to manage. And with Excel, you can have a pretty good base. But ultimately, the edge and the opportunity to make a difference and from reaching this target versus the next target is the ability to react. And how agile can we be by anticipating and having information crunched and readily available to us to make those decisions? It will come down to that, whether I have to improve my RevPAR, or if we talk about the bigger impact on GOP, whether it's 3 or 5%, is the ability to forecast with anticipation far out in advance in a way that I can align and plan my inventory and where I'm going to sell it, what margin can I get from it from a revenue management standpoint. But if we talk about businesses, hotel businesses in general, how can we plan our resources in a way that's productive and can help us with having revenue as the benchmark to really distribute our resources in a way that we become efficient and profitable. It's not the same thing of having all of our resources aligned when we're at 80% occupancy or when we're at 40% occupancy. If we don't plan our resources accordingly, when we're at 40% occupancy, we produce a lot of wastage. So it's about really driving the margin. We focus a lot on growing asset value for hotels. By driving the margin is when the revenue team is going to be able to set the scene for the organization and help them forecast how they need to distribute their resources to become productive and to be able to achieve those margins. And that is very difficult to do in Excel. You need technology to predict and prescribe to you what you need to do to make you strategic and agile to react to the market.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. So I believe that we are running out of time, but may I have time for a last question for all three of you, very quick, in 30 seconds. What would be your advice for a first step for people who are interested in revenue management but haven't done anything yet? Would it be to learn more? Would it be to outsource these techniques? Would it be to start working on a RMS? Would it be measuring the results they already have? So very quickly, the three of you, first, Oriol, will be for you the first step?
Okay, great. So for me, the first step is try to organize all the data you have, because at the end of the day, as Alex was saying, we need to measure stuff, because if we don't measure, we don't know what's going on. And I have the feeling that so we all know that in the PMS is a gold mine. Okay, we have all the data there, but you know that sometimes of PMS also try to delete all data, and maybe we don't keep it. Okay, so for me, the first step is try to keep all the data of your property, because this data is what will allow you to learn what's going on, is what will allow you to make forecasts, and this is what will allow you to actually perfectly design the pricing strategies and then the inventory management. So it's everything about the data. And of course, you said, should we get knowledge? Yeah, actually, I invite them to get training on revenue management. Actually, I invite them to come to my school to get this training.
Of course. Alex.
I will say I will continue with data. I will insist on that, but I will say data integrity. I give you an example. Last year, I was contacted by somebody that was thinking about going a step further, and they asked me if I could give them a hand, and they told me, yeah, of course. And I say, okay, do you have the data? Because if you don't know how much you want to invest yet, but to see a possibility, you need the data. And they tell me, yeah, I have all the data. Everything is my PMS, as Oriol mentioned. And then I say, okay, can you forward it to me so we can have a look at it, and we can see if there's at least an opportunity or something. And then all of a sudden, when I got the data, basically you needed somebody to filter all that data, because it was really there was no data integrity there. There was no you couldn't filter by product you were selling, by length of stay. There was really not. The data was a complete mess, as Oriol mentioned, because sometimes the PMS doesn't save it in the way you want to save it. So basically, my first advice for them was, okay, you got the data, but you don't have data integrity. So it's difficult, because basically whatever system you have, what you put in is what you get out. So if the data is not good, you're not going to get good results, and then you blame it on a system, and actually it's not the system, it's the data you provide. So for me, the first one will be data integrity, and just look in your team. You might have somebody there that it might have the capabilities to do that, and if not, just invest in their formation, send them to CETT, send them to a course, look for somebody like Christina, who can provide you with a little bit of insight. Invest. You're gonna get your money back, I assure you. Just think about this: a hotel with 30,000 stays, €5. Do the math. It's just a second, 150,000 euros more. So that's a plain one. So probably it's worth to invest on it.
Okay, so one thing, Chris, before giving you the floor, we have a last-minute question. So I would ask this to Alex, now that we have him, and then if Christina wants to add something at the end, because I think it's a question that maybe both can give us some information, and then we will close with that. But we have a question from someone who asked, he mentioned, or she mentions, that OTAs have been gaining a significant share post-COVID, eating into the profitability, even the larger brands, by investing heavily. So he's asking, or she's asking, I don't know, his or her name, what happened there, because we also have some hotels' perspective and some partners' perspective, some vendors that say that actually, thanks to COVID, more people have been checking the direct channel and the official hotel websites, and there's been a slight new balance for direct channels. So what's the real landscape there?
If I may, I will say that yes, when COVID hit us, everybody was looking then into the. There was a moment where I have to say that OTAs, and this is not a critic, it was a fact, they didn't manage well their customer services. Hotels became customer service for OTAs, and then you wanted to talk directly with who was able to return you the money. So that gave us an advantage as hoteliers. Now we are going back to, let's say, normal business like before COVID. Some things have changed. It's like they were saying that Meetings will not ever go as before. And it's true, they have changed, they have evolved, but everybody wants to meet in person at the end of the day. That's the same with OTAs. They are going back. They have more money to invest. They just invest in their channels and everything. And I insist again, and it's not that you can find everywhere. The most important thing is the best price has always to be in your website. It can be in other places, but it has to be in your website. So it doesn't mean you cannot you have to sell cheaper than the others, but it has to be in your website. If otherwise you are educating customers to go to other channels. It's true that you cannot compete, especially if you are a small hotel, with OTAs like Booking Expedia, basically by choice. Everybody is, it's like Disney Plus, Netflix, all those platforms. And most everybody is going to be, the majority have Netflix. Why? Because of the amount of possibilities you have there, and you're scrolling through it. With OTAs, it's exactly the same. It's human nature. You have more hotels, you have more choices and everything. Maybe once you have choose there, if you are an hotelier like me, you go to the hotel and you ask them. It's not necessarily going to happen. But for instance, one of the things, and I'm going to shoot myself on the foot, but it's something that I can say. Think about if you are in Genius, do you have the same discount in your own website? Because probably most of the ones that have Genius, and I see a lot of smiles now, they do not have the same discount in their website. That's the first mistake you should correct.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Chris, final thoughts?
Couldn't agree more, Alex. I think we're all in one of those situations where we talk to our market manager, our OT market manager, and they look at our data and think, wow, look at these dates. If only we could launch a promotion, we would increase this discount or whatnot, we'd be able to really shift that inventory. And they convince you very quickly in an instant. But then what happens? We lack that collaboration with our marketing. And how many times we've completely forgotten to do the same thing in our direct channel? If we're incentivizing an OTA, why are we not incentivizing our direct channel? Talking to our teams and really planning and strategizing with our teams is really key. So I just like to highlight collaboration as a really significant piece that can really help us improve results and of course, margin.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. So thank you, Chris, Alex, Oriol, for your knowledge and your time, of course. And I'll give it now to Albert for the final farewell. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. This is going to be very brief, just thanking once again our speakers today. It was very interesting to hear you all, and also I want to thank all the participants in this webinar. They were a bit shy with the questions, but but we really appreciate your participation, your attendance, and remember that there's going to be one last webinar. It's going to happen in November, and if you check our TourBIZZ website, you will find further information. Okay, that's it from our side. Thank you. See you in the next webinar. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.